Welcome to the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about this new record from Mark Pritchard and Thom Yorke, entitled Tall Tales. They released that on May 9th. This is the first full-length collaboration between the two legendary Brits, and a project that I think many people have been anticipating for quite some time now. The two first met back in 2012 in Sydney, Australia, surely precipitated by Pritchard's remix of the song Bloom from Radiohead's 2011 album King of Limbs. A simple conversation transpired over dinner with the casual idea of throwing some songs together one day. Two titans of the industry, why the hell not? And so there's no doubt in my mind of the instant and enormous power of their connection in that moment. Mark Pritchard is one of the most prolific and eclectic DJs and musicians and producers out there, working under countless monikers over the years and extending his reach into just about every corner of the musical world. Whatever you're into musically, Mark has more than likely dabbled in that realm of sound, and it exists in a more sophisticated state, I think, because of him. That he felt compelled to remix the work of Radiohead makes complete sense, not just simply because of the band's stature, but more importantly because that stature had been attained through the electronic direction of 6 landmark records over the course of 15 years. And of course, most of us are probably familiar with Thom, unless you've been hiding in a bunker the last 30 years or so. But I think that it makes perfect sense why Thom Yorke would be equally as intrigued by Mark Pritchard. I'd argue that Radiohead's objective has always been to keep their sound and their style grounded in rock and roll, but to push those boundaries in ways that no other artist have, especially into that electronic realm. And they even apply this philosophy to their own process of album making. And as a result, they've found themselves in the upper echelons of rock and roll with the likes of David Bowie and Pink Floyd and Talking Heads. And for Thom, I think that Mark Pritchard is a guy that exists on this level with what he's accomplished in his illustrious career. And so Tall Tales comes almost 9 years to the day after the release of Radiohead's last effort, A Moon-Shaped Pool. So 9 years in one day, actually. And with some of the tracks from Tall Tales actually originating that far back on Pritchard's end. He did collaborate with Thom Yorke on the track Beautiful People. That is from the 2016 album Under the Sun, with Thom contributing vocals on the track. And then in 2019, Pritchard remixed Not the News from Yorke's last solo effort, Anima. So when Yorke found himself isolated and locked down through COVID, he emailed Pritchard and told him to send some songs his way. And thus, the beginnings of Tall Tales were born. And the two spent the better part of 3 years putting this record together, sending demos back and forth and communicating through Zoom calls, and no doubt spending countless hours hunting for obscure synthesizers and tinkering with these tracks once they were able to get out about into the world. And the result is a record that is borderline terrifying, a predominantly formless landscape of anxious, claustrophobic, dystopian compositions that will honestly make you question the efficacy of peering out from under your blanket at the specter hovering over your bed. I'm not kidding. There's some bright moments, but this thing, it's dark. This is an album that goes all in, and it doesn't feel all that surprising coming from either artist. Thom Yorke's lyrics have long grappled with his discontent of the modern world, and often cynically and in biting fashion. There are moments like that on this record, but he may have ventured into the darkest territory he's ever been in, and I absolutely love it. The music, for the most part, is mesmerizing in its ability to create an unsettling sonic landscape that it frames the nefarious strength of Yorke's writing. But there are also so many moments of beauty that you'll frequently question the path that you've been led on. And I love that dynamic as well. The contrast of light and dark is captivating, especially because I think those lighter moments often feel like they're being ripped away from you when the darkness comes back. And I think that's terrifying as well. It all kind of reminds me of what Ethel Cain did when she released Perverts at the beginning of the year. But I would argue that Tall Tales is a record that is more accessible and easier to digest. It will still scare the shit out of you, though. Along with that cover created by Jonathan Zawada, he also produced a feature full length film that accompanies the album. And I haven't had a chance to see that yet, but if any of you have, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And I certainly look forward to checking it out at a moment in time. I will say that there are a few moments on this record that feel laborious. I feel like the 8+ minutes of the opener, A Fake in a Faker's World, falls into that category. Honestly, I think the first 4 songs kind of do. I would say that all 4 tracks they're great pieces, but collectively, I think they make this project kind of difficult to access to open. And I know this is a project that isn't necessarily meant to be easy, but I feel like with the runtime and a number of other factors that it makes it a little tough to get into this thing. There's also a handful of COVID references. If you're familiar with the channel, you guys know how I feel about that. I just feel like they date material, and I'm a big fan of, when it comes to poetry, tell me without telling me directly. I would say that Thom, he plays with his vocals a lot on this record, and it's unique and it's engaging and I enjoy it, but there is that absence for the most part of that signature vocal style of his, that beautiful voice. And so not having as much of that, I would say, is a bit of a criticism. And then there's some gaps in between tracks that I think kind of kill the continuity. But other than that, this thing, it kicks off with A Fake in a Faker's World, soft, thick bass drum that's going to open up this record. A bit of hi-hat works in, followed by playful synth elements, layered with somber droning synths as well. You got Thom's signature voice actually takes hold on this track as a snare drum works in and other pieces begin to unfold. There's another more ominous synth that plays with space nicely on this track, while the drums build more body and kind of like a muted, echoey vocal floats in and out. The composition builds slowly and intensely until it fades out about halfway through. And then you get this playful bubble-like synth that takes hold of this shapeless landscape. Percussive elements work back in to rebuild, along with other electronic components. I love the gothic organ-style synth that takes hold around the 5-minute mark of the track, and this track continues to weave through numerous elements in and out of the refrain, "Our day will come." It's a hollowed soundscape that fades right into your next track. I think I love your next track is Ice Shelf, your second song, but I think that there's just a lot going on in this opener that, again, it makes it a lot. But Ice Shelf opens with a gentle drone and another icy synth that ripples in and out, capturing the atmosphere of its title for sure. This track is frigid and inhospitable. You get a second synth element that functions with a cold flicker as it moves in and out of the track, almost kind of sounding like a vocal. It's pretty unique. After an extended intro, Thom finally delivers a vocal that feels honestly like hypothermia settling in. The chill becomes comforting and it soothes you into this helpless catatonic state. I think it's really well done on this song. You get these warlike electric drums that come to life in the coda with numerous flickering synth elements moving around to close this track out. Your third song, Bugging Out Again, leads off with this light static fade in on a bright synth that it's going to swell slowly and then it vanishes with this kind of like soft tuba-like element that hovers in the background. It's almost kind of like this vaudeville type element. Thom's vocals are delivered in a serene, distorted fashion, while more icy production adds to the tranquil nature of the song. The song makes a slightly jarring turn around the 1:30 mark, and maintaining the feel of the composition, but with subtle melodic differences that they become more eerie as this track progresses. The movement continues for the rest of the track, leading into your fourth song, Back in the Game. You get this soft, jaunty bass synth and a horrifying synth element that slowly takes center stage, of this track. And then The jaunty synth, once it disappears, it is going to come back, and it returns, returns with more oomph, ushering in electronic beat with tinny percussion, and a menacing circus-like synth that just conjures all the scariest demons you can imagine. This is a creepy song. I think the glitchiness of the track enhances this as well. Vocals take control, instilling fear with the track and shifting more to a minimal structure. It's going to revert to the styling that led to the vocal as sort of a bridge, and then it all comes for the second verse of this track. It sounds like the circus went industrial. This thing, a computer-like synth takes hold around 3 minutes, with the rest of the music disappearing, and then it increases in intensity to bring Thom back with a build back to the coda of this song. Your fifth song, The White Cliffs, is exceptional. It opens with a big drum beat with an unhurried tempo. You get this foreboding legato synth that slowly fades in, with Thom's soft but piercing vocal following shortly after. His voice is stunning on this track. Around the 2-minute mark, a tweakily synth begins the movement of many spooky elements around that fragile vocal from Thom, and it's just one of those few moments again on this record where we get that vulnerability in his voice, and it makes this song so powerful. It's extremely effective. The spookiness of this song would be silly in my opinion as well if the whole damn package wasn't so harrowing. There's a great shift in his vocal with this deep raspy tone around 3 minutes and 30 seconds with staccato programming that's almost kind of has a Nintendo core component to it. I dig the harp stylings that take hold with the ethereal synths towards the end, and the song fades into murky territory to close for the last minute or so. It's impressive that it doesn't seem to drag given what it's doing for 8 minutes. A really stunning number, I would say, a highlight track for me. As well as your sixth song, The Spirit, which picks up the energy into this bright, buoyant staccato synth with multiple layers building to similar effect. Thom's vocal hits in all the right ways once again on this one, and this is a track that unfolds in uplifting fashion. He sings, "I'm nobody's fool, and you can't bring me down. I am not the fool that you think I am. All will be revealed. I keep the spirit alive, passed from me to you, alive, what you know is true. I wish you well, pray for peace, a magic spell that sends you all to sleep." A little dark there. "The shadow around your eyes, I keep the spirit alive. Before it's all forgot, fluids and oxygen." Some hard truth at moments, but serene nonetheless. And I really enjoy the way this track builds on a simple bit of bass, gives it some depth, and the shivering synths that will follow that. Really enjoy the development of the bass riff as the song develops and the strings that swell around that gorgeously. The shivering synth element takes over for the last minute or so with fluttering, indecipherable vocals that drift through kind of this formless atmosphere to close this track out. Your seventh song is entitled Gangsters. It's going to open with a big bouncy sci-fi synth that has kind of like a sympathetic vibration quality. It's pretty unique. You get this electro percussion that ups the tempo of the track to bring it close to dance territory. Thom's vocal has this monastic quality for the first few lines, and then something sinister happens with this one. The boys are doing some serious work playing with the vocal elements on this track, and it's a lot of fun. Other fluttering synths are going to grab your attention on this wild ride. This thing, it sounds like they're just throwing different objects in a racquetball court with infinite inertia as it builds together. It's pretty fun and pretty unique. Your eighth track, This Conversation is Missing Your Voice, comes out screaming with another up-tempo drum beat. You get clapping percussion and multiple other percussive elements as well. This legato style synth is going to conjure a feeling of uncertainty that I enjoyed about the track. It's not jovial, but it's not somber either. It's just reflective and pensive. This track does feature backing vocals from Luisa Revolta and does a nice job of bringing energy to the record at a moment when I think it really benefits from doing so. This is a long project. I think too much fleshed out sound would kind of bog the listener down. It's going to lead into your ninth song, the title track. It's got this alarm sounding synth to open up this ominous droning element with an alien clicking sound. You get another layer of spine-chilling synths that build in on this one, then the vocal hits to just absolutely scare the shit out of you. Their spoken word, the sounds of desperate pleas with numerous men and women. Thom and Mark are just literally trying to give us nightmares with this one, I think. It's really well done, though. About halfway through, there are some orchestral sounding elements that are going to play with lighter melodies, but it's just, honestly, it just feels like it's to mess with us a little bit on this particular track. Your 10th song, Happy Days, comes out with a propulsive drum beat with lots of action on the snare. There's the presence of the omnichord that works in to give this track this more of that vaudeville texture that they're playing with in this one, along with the sobering synth element that forbids the joy to come to life on this thing. It's a really interesting dynamic. It sounds darkly monastic, almost like a choir at times, but more unnerving this track becomes with the spoken word vocals as it unfolds. It carries this feel from start to finish, and the title definitely doesn't give the impression of what this song does. Your penultimate track, The Men Who Dance in Stags' Heads. You get this accordion-like synth that opens to simple meditative percussion that works with toms and tambourine. Recitative vocal goes to work on this as woodwinds and the omnichords slowly build in rapturous energy. I love this song. It sounds like early Velvet Underground to me. And I would say that with everything that's gone on, it just functions as the perfect penultimate track. And then your final song, your 12th track, Wandering Genie, fades in on programming that emulates horns, along with this monastic style vocal and synths. The oboe comes to life beautifully with the lyrics, I'm not falling, on this track. It almost feels like succumbing peacefully to death, the way that this unfolds. The song continues to swell and intensify in kind of this big loop to close this record out. I wasn't really sure what to expect getting into this project. And I don't think it's a record that I will find myself throwing on frequently, because I just think, given the energy and given the dark territory that it ventures into, it's got to, I don't know, it's going to be one of those things where I think the mood is going to have to strike me. But damn it if it is not completely well done. Like I said, I think that the runtime is a little laborious, and while I really do enjoy those first 4 tracks, it almost feels like, to a degree, they could have maybe trimmed the beginning of this record, maybe even released like an EP as an introductory into this project, kind of the way that Bon Iver put out Sable Fable recently. But I think that this is worth your time. Find yourself in a place where you're willing to go into the darkness, but the synth play, the tinkering and the time that you can tell was put into these compositions over that span of 3 years or so is very obvious, and I think the production is outstanding. Again, 2 giants really coming together and doing what they do best. I don't know if this is going to hold over you Radiohead fans either, and who even knows if Thom decides to go back to the project. They're still together technically. I think it will happen, but it's been closing in on a decade now, and it's it's pretty wild to see Tom's attention focused on all these other projects. And who knows, I could have missed something. And if you guys have any info on updated Radiohead information, throw that in the comments, because it'd be fun to chat about as well. But give this thing a go. I'm going to give it an 8.1 out of 10. Cannot wait to go pick up the vinyl package. It's beautiful. There's like a 36-page booklet inside of this thing. The sleeves, the booklet, all of the artwork is incredibly well done. And I hope you enjoy this record. Hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2025, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.